Welcome to Bound by Books. I'm one of your hosts, Sherry Hayes, and we have a special guest joining me today. This is Teresa with Poised Pen Productions. She offers PA and VA services for authors. So, welcome.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this for me. I know it was a little last minute, um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about PA and VA personal assistance and virtual assistance, because that's really important for a lot of authors. A lot of authors utilize um, assistance in their author businesses, and but I do know that there's a lot of kind of mystery behind that as well, because with especially with newer authors, they kind of hear those terms being used in the author sphere, but they don't necessarily understand what all uh virtual assistants or personal assistants can kind of do for their author business. So why don't you kind of share? You've been doing this for how long? How long have you been a PA slash VA for authors?
Uh, Unofficially, I started in 2008, and officially, I opened Poised Pen Productions in 2011. So we've been around for a while.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah, because I published my first book in 2010. So yeah, so unofficially you've been doing this for longer than I've been published. So quite a long time. Wow. Now how did you get started? I guess that would be a good
Well,
kind of place to start.
it was probably the last thing that I thought that I would ever do. Actually, it wasn't even on my radar as something that I wanted to do. Um, I was on a street team for author, and she always, encouraged her street team to help share her books, but she offered some really good like prizes for everyone who
Mm,
shared, especially during a new book release. And a lot of the people were making their own little teasers, graphics, and they were putting them on there, and so other people could share. And I looked at that and I'm like, oh, I think I can do that. So that's how I started. Basically, I started creating graphics and uh, and putting them in the group and sharing them on my Facebook page because back then I didn't have a Poised Pen page, and I started. And then after a while, I got encouraged by that author to maybe branch out and start my own company. So I did, but I was still working full time outside the home. And so it took a little while, for me to start building up my clientele because I was limited for the amount of time that I could actually put into it.
right, right. And that's really kind of where using a PA or a VA is beneficial to authors. It is a time thing. It's freeing up their time so that they can do other things. And what are like some of the most common things that you help authors with?
Gosh, well, being a PA or a virtual assistant, there are all kinds of, I guess, levels of what you can do
Mm,
or what you do. Uh, the basic thing that we do is we make teasers. We come up with catchy phrases, catchy language to put out in social media to like all the groups, the relevant groups for the book that we're promoting.
mhm.
We can help with your street team and your author page management. We can help you out there. Uh, but and that's the basic. But we do so much more. We help. Uh, we do formatting. We write
Mm,
blurbs. We have editors on staff. Uh, we have formatter. I've already said that. We have cover designers on staff. We help with newsletter creation, blog creation, uh, pretty much you name it that has to do with the book community and promoting. We pretty much can do it all.
Wow. Wow. See there, Teresa has been my VA for about what, 2 or 3 years now, I think.
Well, I think it's been almost about 4 years, I think,
Yeah, I
this
was
year.
going to say it's been a while. It's been a while. And she does a lot of my social media stuff. That's what I have chosen to have her help me with, because I don't, especially going into other groups and things like that to promote my book, that's something that I really don't have time to do, because you have to rotate things. You can't be constantly putting things in the same group over and over and over again. You have to have the graphics, you have to have a new graphic for it when whenever you put it in to try to gain more attention. And that's something that's a time suck for me as an author, that takes me away from writing. And it's not something I really find enjoyable as an author. If I'm going to post on social media, I would much rather post in my reader group or post on my author page with some interaction, where I can have more interaction. Um, but posting things in, especially with sales and freebies and new releases and things like that, that is a good thing to get out into other reader groups that are not specifically the author's reader group. But that's a good thing to get out there, but it does take some time. I used to have this spreadsheet that had probably 50 different book groups on Facebook on it. And I used to rotate them, I used to be like, okay, this week I'm posting on these 10 sites. And then the next one I'd be posting in these 10 down here. And then the next 10 and rotate them. But it took so much time for me to do that. And you don't want to post the same exact thing, like I said, all the time. So it takes, that again, it's time. But now, you mentioned that you do newsletters, or you help with newsletters for authors.
Uh-huh.
How do you do that? Do you write the newsletter copy for them, or do you just send it out? How does that work for them?
Okay, it depends. It really depends on the client. Every single one of the clients that I do newsletters for, they write their own introduction. Because they want I can't be personal for them in an introduction. And so they write their introductions. Some write the complete newsletter and send me the pictures of, the images they want in there, and I just format it for them.
Okay.
Some write the introduction and tell me what they want, and then I'll go and load the rest of it for them. Put in the correct links, put in pictures or book covers or book blurbs or book descriptions or whatever we're doing. Or if we're having a poll or if we're doing a contest, I'll go in and fill in the rest of it. And
Okay.
then I send the test copy to them for their approval. And then we go from there to get it scheduled and sent out to their readers.
Oh, wow. So now, do you also decide, make the decision on, or suggest the subject line for those newsletters, or do you kind of leave that up to the author?
I usually choose a subject line according to what their introduction is going to be.
Okay.
Uh, because I usually do everything and then I'll send it back to them to put their introduction in. And then once they get that in, and then we'll come up with an appropriate, catchy phrase, catchy line. And a lot of times if I'm having difficulty, I'll brainstorm with my team. I have five team members that work with me at Poise Pen.
Okay.
So we brainstorm a lot.
Well, sometimes it's easier to come up with stuff when you have a team, like group behind you, that you can just bounce ideas off of, versus one person trying to come up with it all on their own. I mean, that is one of the benefits of having a virtual assistant or a PR company or what have you, as like kind of behind you as an author, because you can bounce ideas off of them, and help, especially if you're stumped with your marketing. Having that sounding board can be really, really helpful. um is there something you like doing as a PA or VA, more than anything else? Is there like one thing that you're like get excited about to help authors with? Is it the graphics, or is it something else?
Well, mine is I make all the graphics
Mhm.
for Poise Pen. Unless the author, the client sends me their own graphics, because some like to make their own. And I know you do, like, you make a lot of your own. You do a really good job of it. Sometimes I steal yours. So
Yeah, I probably am one of Teresa's most inconsistent clients, because I don't release on a really uber regular basis. So she ends up kind of rotating through my backlist versus focusing on new releases all the time. And yeah, like she said, I do a lot of my own graphics. She does some graphics for me too, but I do a lot of my own graphics just because uh, I don't mind doing graphics. They're not something I absolutely like, oh my goodness, I love this, but I don't mind doing graphics. They're not that complicated for me to do. They're not hard, because I do have that create, I don't know, that pitch that points into my creative side a little bit. Plus I have my husband is an artist, so he he has that eye and has kind of taught me some things. So and I will say my graphics have gotten better over the years. My first graphics were not so good.
mine either. I go and see some of my earlier ones that pop up in my Facebook memories, and it's like, oh my, what was I thinking? But
Mhm.
if you think about it though, back then we didn't have all the fancy smancy software that we have now to help make graphics either. I mean, I literally started out using PowerPoint to make my graphics.
Mm. I can't imagine that. I mean, I actually don't think I've ever made a graphic in PowerPoint. By the time I started making my own graphics, I started using Canva. And while Canva is nice and it has some advantages, I didn't know what in the world I was doing. Like I had no idea how to use Canva. I had never made graphics before in my life. So I was just, like, okay, let me put this here and put this square behind my book cover and move this over here and put this background picture. And I really wasn't understanding like the balance that needed to be there and how much space and versus, putting, like you don't want to crowd the picture either. You want it to that graphic to not be too busy. So learning that balance when doing graphics was a big learning curve for me. Um, and then of course later on came BookBrush, and that was kind of a game changer for authors.
Yeah.
But I will say there are some things I like to create better in BookBrush, and there are some things I like to create better in Canva. It depends on what I am. What about you? What do you use one of those too, or do you use Photoshop, or what do you use?
I use Canva.
Okay.
I use Photoshop. I use a software called Get Stencil,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I make most all of my graphics that I put in social media.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's and a lot of times I still like to go back to PowerPoint and just freehand everything. And I mean, I do. I love freehands and graphics, because you're not some of the programs sometimes seem a little boxy to
Mm.
me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
will I will say that's one of my biggest complaints with BookBrush, and why sometimes I prefer to do the graphic in Canva, is because in some ways I feel that Canva is a little more manipulative. Like I can manipulate things a little bit more in Canva than I can in BookBrush, because like I can't put two separate backgrounds in BookBrush. You get your background picture and that's all you get. Like you can't, yeah, you can, I mean, you can do overlays and things like that, but say I want to have like do a split screen. Like say I want to do this side, I want it to be a black square and or a back, black rectangle or whatever, and this side I want it to actually be a picture or maybe a black square and a red square or something like that. That's very difficult to do in BookBrush. Whereas in Canva, I can just either do a split, do a grid and, put the two color squares in there, or I can actually put two separate background pictures side by side and have them like, and then do whatever I'm going to do with my overlays on top of that. And, I can put shapes in there on Canva, and I can do it on BookBrush, but it's just doesn't seem to translate the same.
I know.
So, yeah. So, again, it's the tools, it's finding the tools that you're comfortable with if you're going to do your own graphics. And also I wanted to touch on like we were talked about a little earlier with how you do different operations, like different things for different authors.
Huh?
And I'm assuming that is depending on what the author wants is determines what you're charging them for that service,
Exactly, yes.
correct? Okay. So it is important as an author, if you're going to approach a personal assistant or virtual assistant, that you're very clear on what you want, right? You want them to tell you, because I know when we first because what we've kind of went back and forth, like sometimes Teresa does certain things for me and then we'll change it up and have it over, we'll not do this and then we'll go over here and do this, because what my needs are kind of evolves and changes, and that's okay. And it's good to have an assistant that's going to help you in whatever capacity you need them to help you with, because there's not all one size fits all. I mean, I know of authors who have personal assistants that they physically work with, who will take things to the post office for them and pick things up from the post office for them.
I do that.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
I have 2 boxes waiting to be mailed out tomorrow when the post office opens back up.
yes. So I mean, it's it really, the sky is kind of the limit when it comes to having an assistant, because they are very much, you're hiring someone, you are very much hiring an assistant, whether they're virtual or they're live and in person, right? I mean, you're saying, hey, I need your services to help me with X, Y, and Z. And so can you help me with this list of things? And then it's kind of a back and forth of negotiating as to how much this service would cost you in order to
Exactly,
have that
and
done.
it takes a couple of months, to get that relationship going, because I have to get in your head, and you need to know what's going on in my head, and
Oh,
we
very
work
much so.
there. The good thing about us is that we have like a price structure of what we'll do for a certain amount of money, but it's not locked in.
Mhm.
If you
Right.
don't need this month and you need something else, hey, no problem. We're going to do that for you.
Right.
And
Right.
I know I read an article, well, actually just this morning, that it said the average indie author, uh, after you're trying to write, a lot of indie authors still have a full time, or they work outside the home, maybe have kids, have dinner, you have all the things,
Mm-hmm.
but they still spend a minimum of at least 10 hours a week marketing.
Yeah.
And that's a minimum.
Yeah.
And And having a PA or a VA can free that time up for you.
Right. Oh yeah,
And
for sure. Cause you do have to find that balance. And if you are spending your time marketing, you're not spending the time writing.
exactly.
I mean, especially if you have a job outside of your writing, you are, you only have a limited number of hours in which to write or work on your author business as a whole. And so if you only have, you know, if you only have, say, 15 hours in a week to work on your writing business, if you're spending 10 of those hours doing marketing, that's only 5 hours you're writing. It's an hour a day, 5 days a week. That's not a lot of writing time.
No, it's not.
So, yeah. So, I mean, if you can free up that time and even say a VA can take half of that, that now frees you up for 10 hours of writing and only 5 hours of marketing.
Exactly. And now I will say one thing that a VA cannot do, they cannot guarantee you book sales.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there are a lot of them that do. They'll tell you that they'll get 60% more in sales if you hire me. Well,
Hmm.
that I'm sorry, that's just a flat out untruth because nobody can promise that.
Yeah, I would say that would be a red flag, that maybe newbie authors that have never had AP or VA, should kind of maybe make them take a step back and really think about something is if somebody is anytime, and this is for anything in the book world, it not just an assistant, but a newsletter. If you're signing up for a newsletter promotion and whoever is approaching you to get you to sign up to this, new service or whatever it is, and they say, we guarantee that you'll sell, you know, however many books or your sales will increase by this much percent. Usually that's a sign that you should turn right around and run
Run
because
as fast as you can, as far away as you can. Because
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah,
take
because
the money and like you're not never gonna see any results from it.
well, it's just it's fishy because how are you guaranteeing me the results? How are you guaranteeing me that you are going to triple my book sales? Because there's no way to do that unless you're breaking terms of service or you know um are you paying for reviews? Because if you're generating reviews and getting people to post reviews, yeah, you could potentially get more book sales off of that. It's possible because the more you're generating interest and things like that and of your books. But if somebody's paying people for writing those reviews and posting them, you're now breaking terms of service on Amazon and quite a few other ones, service sales, locations, retailers. So, is it worth you potentially losing your ability to sell on that platform altogether to try and double, triple, whatever your book sales through this thing? So again, it's just a very fishy things if somebody says to you that some sort of a guarantee about book sales, not the best thing. An assistant is exactly that. An assistant is somebody to help you with things in your business that need to be done.
Exactly.
Period. Full stop. End of story. That's what they're there for. They're to free up your time as an author to do other things in your book business, whether that is writing. I mean, that could actually just be maybe you want to free up your time so that you have more family time. Maybe it's not you wanting to, be able to spend that time on your book business. Maybe you want to free up your time to, be able to go and spend those 5 hours a week additional with your family instead of sitting in front of the computer and doing graphics or formatting a newsletter or whatever. And that's fine. But yeah, a PA or a VA does not have anything to do with actual sales.
Now, but we do guarantee that we will get your name out there.
Oh yeah.
And a
Yeah.
good PAVA will do that. We put your name out there, and the more that readers see it, then the more they're going to be familiar. And it's kind of like, huh, I think I know her, or I think I
Right.
know her books, and that's what we strive to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we do many other things too. And a PA can do a lot of things for you.
Right.
We have we have helped choose the title of I don't know how many books. Or an author will send me their blurb and say, fix this. and
Yeah.
and we'll take what they wrote actually, but we'll rewrite it a little bit. It's because it seems like authors have a hard time writing blurbs. You can write a book, big, long, big, thick, big, exciting, suspenseful, sexy book, but can't write a blurb.
Well, it's funny because I don't typically have too much trouble writing blurbs. I have more trouble writing blurbs for myself than I do for other people. Um but it's funny because our group, our group, the hosts that do this podcast, we have a chat. We've mentioned it before on the podcast. We have a chat on Facebook, a private chat, and we talk all the time, not just about the podcast, but we talk about marketing stuff. We talk about our books and all of that. And usually when they need help with their blurbs, they come to me and ask for my help with their blurbs because I'm good at it. I mean, it comes fairly easily to me. But what I've found with most authors, because they're not the only ones that I've helped with blurbs, but I find that with most authors, blurbs are hard because they want to do a plot summary. Like their brain is, okay, I wrote this big long book and this is what it's about. And this is, this happens and then this happens and then this happens, and then this is what we're trying to find out in the book. Like this is the lead up here, and then we're kind of like, oh well, do they fall in love? Oh, will they solve this mystery? And the kinds that leave it hanging like that. But they do these plot points, like they'll write out these plot points, whereas blurbs that work best evoke emotion. And for some reason, even though authors can evoke emotion, even the authors that are really good at invoking emotion in their stories themselves, when it comes to the blurbs, not so much. It just doesn't work. So yeah, I don't, yeah. I like I said, I think it's just we get almost too much in our heads. And again, it's kind of what we said earlier, where having that sounding board, um having somebody to kind of bounce ideas off of, is really good. So, I mean, you say you have quite a few authors that take advantage of your blurb service, or is it kind of your authors that you already have? Is that like a separate service you offer, or is that something that it's just kind of for your authors that you do assistant work for already?
It's not really something that I advertise,
Mm.
uh, but it's something that we do to help our existing clients. Now, we would help anyone who needed the help, but it's just not something that we really advertise.
Okay.
And that's like book covers. I never thought about doing book covers. I love graphics. I love teasers. I love doing full page magazine ads. I
Mhm.
do several of those a year, probably 6 or 8 of those a year for different clients. But I never thought about book covers. And one of my authors came to me and asked me if I would try to do one of her book covers because she likes my graphics. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a try. And this was what the first part of last year.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I've got like 18 or 20 up on Amazon with one more on the way. So and that's not
Oh, wow.
something that I advertise either. It's just been word of mouth. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, you kind of never know. So if you have a PA already, um, just, it's good to ask. All right. If you're needing a specific service, ask. If your PA or your VA does that already or has that service available, or if they don't, ask if they know somebody who, if they would recommend somebody who does do that service
Exactly.
for you.
Because there's some things that we don't do, but I have a list of people that I've used before, and I totally trust,
Hmm.
uh, that, that I'll recommend,
Right.
uh, my clients or anyone inquiring to if it's something that we just don't do.
Right. Right. And that I will say that that is one thing about the book world as a whole that I will say I really do like. Um is that for the most part, people are willing to share recommendations on,
Mm,
you know, who can help them with whatever specifically they need help with. If it's book covers, if it's blurbs, if it's Amazon ads or BookBub ads or whatever it may be, they're usually pretty good at saying, "Hey, I have this really good cover designer," or I have a person over here that can do this for you, and or help you with this. So I do like that. And I would highly recommend if you're an author out there that's looking for someone to help you with a specific need in your author business, find a good author group if you don't have one already and ask for
exact
recommendations, because that's how I found Teresa. I asked for I was looking for a PA to help me with some stuff, and I asked for some recommendations, and one of her clients um said, "Hey, I have a VA that I use, and I've been using her for a couple of years, and I really like her. Um, you know, why don't you reach out to her and see if she can help you?" So that's, word of mouth is really the best way to get recommendations, because there's already a level of trust there because somebody's recommended them.
exactly.
So
And,
yeah. Yeah.
and
So
that's how
go
we've
ahead.
got most of our client base. It has been,
Oh,
word of mouth or recommendations. We don't personally do a lot of advertising.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I've seen your name pop up even in other author groups. Your, Poised Pens Productions pop up as recommendations, especially when it comes to social media type stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've seen that a lot. Like if you need help, with posting on social media and things like that, that, having your company and your name tossed around. So, um, definitely word of mouth and asking is an important thing. So don't be afraid to ask if you need help. That would be the takeaway here. Um, Teresa, while we're going to wrap things up here. Why don't you share where people can find you if they are interested in learning more about Poise Pen Productions?
Well, the best place to go is to my website because it has all my links on there. It's www.poisedpenpro.com.
Awesome.
And you can find our links to Instagram and to Facebook and to Twitter and Pinterest. And I don't think there's a link up for TikTok yet because I've just now kind of jumped on that bandwagon. So, but that I need to put that up there.
Yes, yes, the TikTok has kind of taken things by storm. We've tackled that topic a couple of times on this podcast. So, if you are interested in learning about TikTok, check out some of the older episodes of the podcast. There's one with Tina Moss and Danielle Bannister, and then there's one with Tina and Marianne. All three of them are TikTokers. Tina is a big TikToker. She's got a pretty good following over there. Posts TikToks almost every day. So she's big over there. So if you're interested in that, check that out. And I want to thank Teresa for joining me today as my guest. And I hope you have enjoyed the conversation and learned a little bit about personal assistants and virtual assistants and how they can help your author business. Have a great week of writing. And until next week, have a great writing week. Bye.
Right. Thank you for having me.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.